Coming up today in episode 201 of Husavik Heroes, we do play the Mjólkurbikarinn Quarter Final, taking on Breidablik, and also we have a domestic transfer update. The window has now closed. Did we sell any more players and did we buy any more before that deadline? We'll find out off the back of the intro. Hello everyone and welcome back to Husavik Heroes here on Shaun Does FM. I hope you are doing well, and if you are looking forward to this 201st episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But we have nearly got forward to the Super Cup off the back of yesterday's episode where we played in the fourth round of this Mjólkurbikarinn against Iceland. If you did miss that episode, which did include a bit of a big transfer update as well, I'll leave a link to that one over in the top right corner. We have played quite a few league games since then, but also first things first, the domestic transfer window here in Iceland has closed. We were potentially looking at still getting in a defensive midfielder who might be a little bit of an improvement as a backup to Alain Basicki, someone who might be a little bit better than Lucas Parazek. But in the end, we did no more incoming transfer business, so our squad is now pretty settled going in to this upcoming European season. We can't sign any more players with the window being closed, but we can still sell some players to other European clubs with that European transfer window being open until the end of August. So we just made two real big first team signings for this upcoming season, and one of those, Oripur Helsen, is on loan at Akranes until next season. It's just that one big addition of Jean-Yves Lapacette to start for us in the first team out on the left wing. But we have made a few more moves in terms of outgoings, and of course we still could do a little bit of this up until the end of August, which hopefully we can cover off in tomorrow's episode off the back of taking on Arsenal. In that Super Cup, we made another good bit of money off a player who hasn't really played too much for us so far in this save, and that is Krishnik Abazi. We sold him to Real Sociedad for £30 million yet again, with a 30% of next sale clause included. A player with 2-star goal carrying ability, 3-star white potential. So I think that is a great bit of business getting rid of him for £30 million. He was one of a few players we bought a few years back who looked quite promising in that left wing position. In the end, that potential did just drop down, so we have got rid of him. We are quite strong in that area these days, especially as we are still yet to get rid of Ognjan Miskic because he is still currently injured. So while he's injured, no clubs are prepared to put a bid in for him. But another really good bit of transfer business from us here. We bought him back in 2035 for just under £1 million and get rid of him after around about 3.5 seasons for £30 million off the back of a couple of good years out on loan at Sassuolo, Nuremberg and Stuttgart in the second tiers of both Italy and Germany. So a real good bit of money there for a young winger who, in truth, probably wouldn't have cut the grade here at Völsungur. Getting £30 million for him feels like a little bit of a cheat code, but probably a little bit reflective of where we do stand in European football at this point of the saving. Going up a little bit further, we have loaned out quite a few players to get some first team experience at other clubs, a few players who would have been third choice / fourth choice players and would have been floating in between the first team and the under-19s. They've gone out to some European clubs, and a few of them have also gone out to fellow Icelandic clubs, most notably one of our homegrown players in Burka Barkason. He has gone out to Nuts KR as an important player for the rest of this calendar year. And one other sale that we did make was from our under-18 team, a player who was going to join on a free transfer come the end of this Icelandic season. We sold him for a little bit of money a few days before the deadline, and that was Trusty Arnason. He has gone to Akranes for £28,500, a player who, when at the club, only had 2.5-star potential, and also above that we've also loaned out a few players to European clubs off the back of the end of the domestic transfer window. Robson we've got rid of because we do have a little bit too much foreign influence at the moment in our backup domestic team. So we're going to use the local lad Paul Valdsson over him as the backup goalkeeper this season. So Robson's gone out on loan to Hamburg for the rest of this European season. Also Bartolomew Mozwich, a very promising centre-back, He has gone out on loan to Valencia as well and should get some good game time there as an important player, quite a promising Polish centre-back, and we are very deep in defence these days. That is one of the reasons we did not bring in a defensive midfielder. If we have a few issues in that area, we can always switch Buskro Gay back and play someone like Gabriel Kapan or Richard Waswa in the centre-back position instead. So at the moment, that is the transfer business that we have done. I wouldn't say we've done all of it yet. As mentioned earlier, we could still get rid of someone like Onyan Miskic, and that would actually up the transfer budget by quite a bit because the fee that has been put on his head is around about the £69 million mark. Very nice number there for Onyan Miskic to agree on. So we still could get quite a bit more money coming into the club, but we have done all of our transfer business in terms of incomings. It's just at the moment trying to get rid of a little bit of extra weight from this squad going into the upcoming Champions League season, which we will get underway come the start of next week. And what that does mean for the transfer budget, we do still have a little bit of money left. I say a little bit, quite a bit, £44 million and £110,000 in the wage budget as well. So if we get rid of someone like Miskic as well, that could very much go over the £100 million mark, and we could have a very, very big transfer budget come at the start of the next window in February of next year. So that's what we've done transfer-wise. In terms of what we've been doing on the pitch since the end of yesterday's episode, we have played 5 league games. In the end, they were all very, very convincing victories, especially that one there against Fram Reykjavik. We absolutely destroyed those guys, especially because they picked up 3 red cards in the second half, but a 12-0 win there, the highlight of those recent results. But even around that, the performances have also been quite good, so it does look like we're building up nicely heading into that Super Cup against Arsenal in tomorrow's episode. And what that means for the league table is we are now well and truly on top of it, catching up on Phil Keir well and truly off the back of that little deficit that we did have to overcome off the back of that World Cup break earlier this week. Now we are 12 points above them, still yet to drop a single point, albeit Phil Keir do have a game in hand, but even if they win that game, we will still be 9 points above them. So early doors with about 8 games left in the domestic season, 1/3 of the season left, it does look like we should be picking it up for yet another season. I think that will make it the 16th season in a row of winning the top division here in Iceland. But we are going to be taking on Breidablik today in the Mjólkurbikarinn. They currently find themselves 8th there in the top division. According to our scouts, this is a team we should be beating in a canter, albeit with the next game off the back of this being the Super Cup against Arsenal. This is a chance for us to put out our rotation team and see what they can do. Of course, the board don't actually care about the Icelandic Cup these days, but we would like to win it because it does keep our chances of a domestic quadruple alive, and we didn't do that last season because HK did beat us in that 4th round of the Mjólkurbikarinn, and this is what our rotated team does look like here at Völsungur these days. We'll probably just hold off doing a squad overview until maybe the end of tomorrow's episode or at the start of next week before we play our first Champions League game, just in case we do get rid of a few more players. There's no point showing you guys how they compare to this time last year if they're not here. But this is what our team does look like. A few changes. Paul Valdsson comes in for Robson, as mentioned. When there are foreign restrictions on these domestic games, we do tend to have too many foreigners if we do start Robson in goal instead of the local lad Paul Valdsson. So he comes in there in place of Robson. Also Anderson Guehi I would like to start over Pedro Lemos because he does have a bit more potential, albeit we might have to loan him out because Pedro Lemos is homegrown at club. Our centre-backs are Waswa and Gabriel Kapan, 2 very promising centre-backs there. Louis Herrera is still at left-back. In the DM role, Lucas Parazek. We could have improved on him, but it would have cost us around about £45 million for a player not quite as good, but who did have more potential. So I thought we'd just save our money for this transfer window. So he, for this upcoming season, is going to be the backup defensive midfielder. Bruno Costa, very, very good option in the box-to-box role as a backup, and no doubt will get quite a bit of first-team football this upcoming season. Marcelo Jr., he comes in there for Narek Voskanyan. Really been impressed with how this guy has started off the domestic season with that 5-star potential as well. Do want to give him quite a bit of game time. Hopefully we can register him for the Champions League, but it's a similar case there to Anderson Guehi because, of course, Narek Voskanyan is homegrown club and nation, so he might have to be given priority for that Champions League squad. Then we go out to the wing. Some very good options here. Maurizio Menga out on the right-hand side. He is looking very, very promising these days. A bit more promising than I expected he would be when we signed him a couple of seasons ago. Christopher Allegard, with that addition of Lapasset, does drop into the backup team, but he, as you saw at the end of the Champions League campaign, is a very, very good player. And up front, we have Heiko Kunze as well, a very good option from Germany, the international, at 25 years old. So it's a pretty good backup team with the likes of Pedro Lemos, Erden Scheite, yet another promising centre-back there. On the bench, we've got Narek Jonata, and as well as that, the young promising striker from the Netherlands in Kevin Wouters on the bench as well. So it's quite a promising backup team here, just giving our first team players a good rest going in to that Super Cup and then the remainder of the domestic season before we do kick off the Champions League. So this could be a game in theory that might be a little bit of a banana skin with this backup team, but based on recent form, we should hopefully still be able to get the job done. Also, before we do get into this game, we can give you guys a bit of an update on what has happened so far in European qualifying for the Icelandic teams. Starting off down in the Conference League, we did reveal yesterday Nats KR were going to be taking on Galway United out of Ireland, and thankfully they have got through that second qualifying round. Nats KR currently taking part in the third round. That is off the back of a 3-1 win on aggregate, so a good start there for the Icelandic teams in Conference League qualifying. And we are currently halfway through the third qualifying round of the European competition, so don't quite have a full result. We'll update you guys on this before we play the Super Cup in tomorrow's episode, or maybe straight off the back of that, but we're going to round things up in tomorrow's episode. But right down near the bottom, you can see Nats KR are taking on Zlate Moravce out of Slovakia, and after the first leg, they do have a slight advantage there of 3-2, so at the moment things going quite well for Nats KR in the early rounds of qualifying. If you're wondering where the other Icelandic team is in Conference League qualifying, that will be filled here. They do not join until the playoff, and I'd like to think, based on recent form from those guys in Europe, they can make their way through to the group stages of the Conference League, taking on the winner of a tie between a Hungarian team there and something Spartacus or Vaduz out of Liechtenstein. I think Phil here should be the favourites for that one, and hopefully can make their way through to the group stages, albeit if you do look up a little bit further towards the top, there is a chance Nats KR might only end up having to face Benfica in a playoff, so I do think that maybe we're only going to get one team into the group stages out of this Conference League qualifying. In the Europa League, Keflavik don't actually have to play in a playoff, so they get automatic entry into the group stage. So they will be part of a Europa League draw in tomorrow's episode. And halfway through the third qualifying round of the Champions League, on the league path side, we do have HK, and a good result for those guys away from home. In the first leg, they picked up a 2-1 win away at Red Bull Salzburg, so a very good result for those guys. Hopefully, they can make their way through to a playoff and at the very least end up in the group stages of the Europa League, or they might join us in the group stages of the Champions League for this upcoming season. So I think it's fair to say so far, things are going quite well in terms of European qualifying. Just having a quick look to see if we can see who HK would potentially play in a playoff, and they would take on one of Feyenoord or Fenerbahce. I think that might actually be a semi-winnable tie that for HK, should they continue to hold that lead there over RB Salzburg. So things looking pretty good there, as I mentioned, in Icelandic European qualifying. Hopefully that stays the same when we do update it again come the latter stages of tomorrow's episode. But we are about to take part in this Mjólkurbikarinn Quarter Final, as I mentioned, with our backup team. But given Breidablik's position on the league table, hopefully we can pick up a good win here, and we'll come back shortly from my arena and try and make the final four of the Icelandic Cup. And about 4 minutes into this one, we have our first highlight here in front of the newly expanded Shaun Damon Arena. That is something else I forgot to mention. These days it is around about 19,000 people, and there is an early goal. It was initially off the shot there from Maurizio Menga, the goalkeeper, parried it away, but straight into the path of Christopher Allegard. It's a bit of a soft goal there off of a throw, but good work here from Kunze to square that back for Menga. And as I mentioned, Allegard, right place, right time to give us a 1-0 lead early. And going forward now, just past the 15-minute mark, we are down the other end for a Breidablik corner. We do head that away, and Maurizio Menga is there to try and get us here on the counter-attack. We'll play that forward to Marcelo Jr., the young Brazilian, plays that forward to Allegard. It's a bad tackle that from Rosic. He got nowhere near the ball, and this will give Alligator a chance to pick up an early double. He is on penalties for this backup team. He sends the goalkeeper the wrong way, puts that away in that bottom left corner. There is his 14th goal of the season, been in really good form, especially around that Champions League final, which of course he did get the opening goal in, and that will make it 2-0 just past the 15-minute mark. And a few minutes off the back of that second goal, we are back down Breidablik's end here for a throw, and it does get headed back out there to Herrera, who did put that ball into the mixer from the front. We put that towards the far post, but one of the Breidablik defenders does head that away, but young Lucas Parazek is there to tidy things up. Will be interesting to see how he gets on this upcoming European season if he does get a bit of game time off of the bench. But Guehi plays this one forward for Mango, can square that one for Kunze, but that is a big miss. Very good chance, but still 2-0 Völsungur. And up to the 27-minute mark now, yet another throw in our favour, and Guehi gets that ball headed back to him, just like what happened on the other side. We'll play this one back for Parazek, and can we make it 3-0 just shy of the half-hour mark? Parazek plays this one up for Heiko Kunze. Some good passing here right on the edge of the box, albeit we try and pick out Menga there on the right-hand side, and Breidablik do win possession back there through a header. We'll try and put this one over the top, and they do actually get in behind here, but thankfully their short passing not quite as efficient as ours, and Louis Herrera does get possession back for us, and we try and eventually get back inside the opposition half. Bruno Costa plays the ball over the top for Heiko Kunze, but his chip just a little bit too much on it, and still 2-0, just shy of the half-hour mark, albeit we do have another highlight here about 1 minute before that 30-minute mark, and Bruno Costa plays that one back to Waswa Parazek. That's a little bit of a poor pass, but thankfully Breidablik give that ball straight back to Bruno Costa. Menga now inside the box, far post for Alligard. Simple head of the goalkeeper in no man's land, and Christopher Alligard will get a hat-trick inside the half-hour mark, and it does look like already we are going to be making our way through to the Mjólkurbikarinn semi-finals, and that will make it 3-0 on the day, thanks to a Christopher Alligard hat-trick. And just shy of half-time, we do a free kick here, which Alligard picks out Richard Waswa from. It was looking like it was going to find the bottom right corner, but a good save there from the Breidablik goalkeeper. We'll see if anything does come from the subsequent corner, but it is headed away somewhat there from Breidablik, and it does look like we are going into the sheds at 3-0, and that is entirely thanks to a first-half hat-trick there from Christopher Alligard. So great work there from the young Danish left winger. Probably a little bit harsh that we have replaced him in our first team going into this upcoming European season, but very good depth now in that position. As you saw yesterday, it's a very, very good-looking first rotation here at Völsungur these days, but very happy with how things are going. We'll make no changes going into the second half, 3-0 as we get back underway in this quarter-final of the Icelandic Cup. And a few minutes into the second half, one of our players has picked up a yellow card. That is Gabriel Kapama. Will take no risks here at all, give some game time to young Erdan Shaiti for these last 40 minutes. And up to the 56-minute mark, we have our first highlight here of this second half. We try and get something going here down our right-hand side from that throw. Maurizio Menga plays that one out to Anderson Guehi, who's touched the ball a few times in this highlight. Parazek again will find him here in just a little bit of space down this right-hand side. And now it's Marcelo Jr. unleashes one into the top right corner. Love the look of this young Brazilian midfielder. I think he's going to be a really good player in the future of the save. It just depends how much of that future we actually see, because probably not too long left in terms of seasons of the save before the FM23 beta does come out, but that is an absolute rocket to make it 4-0 Völsungur. And we've gone forward now to the 69-minute mark. We're going to make our last few substitutions of this game now. Is Parazek, who has picked up a yellow card. What we're going to do here, we don't have that many good options in terms of a defensive midfielder on the bench, but what I think we're going to do here is bring on the rep for Parazek, and Bruno Costa can just drop back to a defensive midfielder. We'll just see how that goes here for the last 20 minutes of this game. Also, Christopher Alligard already has a hat-trick. His heart's going down a little bit quicker than some of these other players, and Jonata does need a bit of game time, I do think, so he can come on for the hat-trick hero. That's all of our subs used. Still 4-0 with 20 minutes left. And we have just entered the last 10 minutes of this game. We have the ball here right on the edge of the Breidablik box, and now Louis Herrera is in possession, a little bit of space down the left-hand side, finds Marcelo Jr., tries to pick out his Brazilian partner there in Jonata, but in the end, Bruno Costa from the defensive midfield role will come up with a goal. Another really good one that from outside the box, not the most powerful shot, but just looped almost there over the goalkeeper into that top right corner, and that will make it 5-0. Bruno Costa, very, very good midfielder, making the most of any minutes that he gets. That is a very well-placed shot, in fact, not quite as weak as I thought it was, and that will make it 5-0. With only 5 minutes left, we'll wait and see if anything else does happen here in the latter stages of this game, but we absolutely are making our way through to the semi-finals of the Mjólkurbikarinn as our Phil here. It did look like they were winning their game there 7-0 down in behind my little face cam, so they look like they are in good form going into that Conference League playoff, which we will bring coverage, or at least the result from, in tomorrow's episode when we do that European qualifying wrap-up for the other Icelandic teams. But that was a very, very dominant performance, and we still have a chance of completing a domestic quadruple off the back of that 5-0 win there over Breidablik. And off the back of that win there in that Mjólkurbikarinn quarterfinal, here are the results so far from the other quarterfinals. HK still yet to play Nuts here in the remaining game here on the day after the one that all these other ties were played in. But Phil here, as I mentioned, very convincing win there. As I said, they look like they're in good form going into that Conference League playoff, and of course they are still second on the league table, so based on that, hopefully they can make their way through to the group stages of the Conference League. In tomorrow's episode, also Vala Reykjavik have made their way through, so I think provided that HK get past Nuts KR, as you would expect, it's going to be a pretty strong final four there for the Mjólkurbikarinn and the Icelandic Cup, which these days is the 11th ranked cup competition in Europe, so that has also made its way up, much like the top league in Iceland has, up to 7th position, I think it was, when we checked in on that earlier this week. And of course, we are trying to reclaim that Mjólkurbikarinn after last season, before that year, where HK beat us in the 4th round and went on to win it. We have won it for a long time in a row, all the way back to 2024, where HK beat us in the final, and we did win it back in 2022, the second year of the save. That is how we got into the Conference League in that first year in top flight football. And of course in 2023 Fjolnir won it, but that was a little bit funny because for some reason we didn't get entered into the cup competition that year. Still not too sure exactly why that was the case, but that will do it for today's episode, keeping up our good domestic form there with that win over Breidablik, and also just a little bit of a recap on what has been happening in the transfer window, as well as the other Icelandic teams in European qualifying. If you did enjoy today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. Tomorrow we'll do a big recap of the final stages of European qualifying. Hopefully we might get more than 3 teams in the group stages of Europe, even if HK do lose in their next couple of rounds in the Champions League. They're only going to drop down into the Europa League anyway, so we've got 3 teams at the very least in European football this season in the group stages. But hopefully, as I mentioned, Phil Keir can make that 4, and maybe Nuts KR as well. But tomorrow we're going to start things off with that Super Cup against Arsenal. Hopefully we can get our hands on that for the second time. Off the back of that, we'll play forward a little bit. I'll get through a few games off camera, and then we'll take part in the group stage draw for the Champions League and see who we do have to play against come next week when we do re-enter the Champions League and try and win that for the 4th time in the safe. So that's what's coming up tomorrow. Until then, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.